Billionaires don't make better decisions. They make fewer, and that's the only reason they win. While you are optimizing choices, they have already disqualified 99% of them, not by analysis, but by design. What looks like genius is actually a mission. And what you call strategy is just noise they walked away from. Most people drown in options. The top 1% never even see them. Picture this. A hedge fund manager walks into a room with 50 investment pitches. By the time she sits down, 47 have already been discarded, not after analysis, but before contact. How? She does not ask, "Is this good?" She asks, "Does this belong in my world?" That is the omission filter. It is not a tool for choosing. It is a shield against distraction disguised as thoughts percenti. Think of your attention like oxygen at 30 feet. Every unnecessary decision is a leak in the cabin. 1 leak? Manageable. 10. You pass out before you reach cruising altitude. Yet most high performers fly with windows wide open, chasing potential, exposure, or just in case. Elites seal the hull, not out of fear, but precision. Here is the mechanism. Instead of evaluating outcomes, would this succeed? They evaluate alignment. Does this reflect who I have decided to be? A venture capitalist might say, I only back founders who have walked away from money before. Not because it guarantees returns, but because it signals a filter they themselves respect. It is identity as a moat. And this is not philosophy. It is biology. From our studies show that decisions rooted in self-concept activate the medial prefrontal cortex, same region tied to long-term value encoding, and reduce cognitive conflict. In plain terms, when a choice matches your identity, your brain does not debate it. It executes. No second guessing. No regret loops. Just silent certainty. Compare that to the average professional. Scrolling through 12 job offers, weighing pros and cons on spreadsheets, losing sleep over what if. Meanwhile, the elite operator has one rule. If it does not demand my full self, it does not deserve my time. Everything else evaporates. Most people evaluate options. The top 1% disqualify them before they even appear. And once you install this filter, you stop feeling overwhelmed. You stop chasing validation disguised as strategy. You stop mistaking motion for progress. Because clarity is not about seeing more. It is about refusing to look at what does not matter. Now, once your mind is quiet enough to hear it, you will notice something strange. The best opportunities do not knock louder. They simply stop competing with noise. Which brings us to the next layer. What happens when silence becomes your signal? They do not act because they see opportunity. They act because they see the third ripple, while everyone else is still watching the splash. Imagine a stone dropped in water. Most people react to the first ring, immediate effect, revenue, headlines, urgency. The elite, they are already mapping the seventh. Not because they are psychic, but because they have trained their minds to simulate consequences beyond social visibility. Here is how it plays out in real time. In 2016, a tech founder turned down a $200 acquisition offer. Not because the math was wrong, but because accepting would have triggered a chain reaction. Talent complacency, cultural dilution, strategic drift. None of it appeared in the term sheet. All of it lived in the silence after the handshake. That is second-order silence. The discipline of withholding action until you have traced the causal thread far enough that noise cannot mimic signal. And your brain is built for this if you let it. Neuroscientists call it hierarchical predictive coding. The brain does not just react to stimuli. It runs simulations backward and forward through layers of cause and effect. But most people override this system with urgency. Elites protect it like a vault. Consider Warren Buffett's famous line, "We have made more money by not doing things than by doing them." He is not bragging. He is describing a neurological protocol. Every no reserves bandwidth to model deeper futures. Every silent pause is a rehearsal for unseen outcomes. What they do not say after a meeting reveals more than their entire pitch deck. Because words respond to the present. Silence responds to what is coming. Now, here is the uncomfortable truth. If your decisions are based only on what is measurable today, you are not leading, you are lagging. But once you learn to read the quiet aftermath, the unspoken consequences, the delayed feedback loops, you stop chasing trends. You start planting trees whose shade you will never sit under. And that is when something shifts. You no longer compete in the arena. You design the terrain, which raises a deeper question. How do you compress decades of insight into a single moment of choice? They were not late. They were tense. While the world mistakes speed for advantage, the elite weaponize latency, not delay, compression. Years of observation, pattern recognition, and silent calibration folded into a single decision so precise, it looks like luck to the untrained eye. Picture a sniper in a sandstorm. Everyone else fires at movement. He waits, not because he is slow, but because his shot carries the weight of every gust he has studied. One bullet, one outcome. No wasted motion, no noise. That is temporal leverage. It is not about waiting longer. It is about loading deeper. Take Jeff Bezos, Tougher Us 5. While competitors raced to launch same-day delivery, he quietly acquired Kiva Systems, robotics company few understood. No press release, no hype. 7 years later, that delayed move became the backbone of Amazon's fulfillment empire, cutting operating costs by 20% and enabling Prime's dominance. He did not outpace the market. He outstimulated it. And this is not intuition, it has neurobiology. The human brain has a built-in time machine, the episodic future simulation network, centered in the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex. It lets us mentally rehearse outcomes across decades, not just days, but most people disable it with urgency. Elites feed it daily. Studies show that high-performing executives spend 3 times more time in deliberate non-action than their peers, using silence to integrate signals others miss. Their decisions are not faster. They are denser, packed with layers of temporal insight. They were not waiting. They were loading. And once you stop measuring progress in hours and start measuring it in decision density, you realize speed is for followers. Depth is for architects. Because the future does not reward the first to move. It rewards the last to misunderstand. Now, what if you could design your life so the right choice reveals itself, without you having to chase it? You do not choose the right door. You build a hallway where only one remains. Most people believe freedom means more choices. Elites know better. True freedom is removing the need to choose at all. Imagine planting an orchard not by selecting which tree will bear fruit, but by designing the soil, slope, and sunlight so that only the strongest species survives. You do not pick the winner. The system does it for you, silently, inevitably. That is optionality architecture. It is not planning. It is pre-structuring realities so that future decisions emerge as natural consequences of present design. Consider Naval Ravikant's early career. He did not decide to build AngelList. He spent years cultivating 3 constraints. Only work on problems with infinite upside, never trade time for money, build in public, always. By the time the startup ecosystem exploded, those constraints had already funneled him toward a single path he did not choose, but inherited through design, and your brain rewards this deeply. Neuroscience calls it environmental scaffolding. When external structures carry cognitive load, your prefrontal cortex offloads decision fatigue into your surroundings. Procedural memory takes over. Choice becomes reflex. clarity becomes automatic. A Harvard study found that top performers spend 70% less mental energy on daily decisions, not because they are smarter, but because they have engineered their environments to eliminate false forks. Their calendars, networks, and workflows are filters, made physical. Options do not just get rejected, can never appear. You do not choose the right door. You build a hallway where only one remains. And when you stop forcing decisions and start designing conditions, you stop feeling torn between paths, because there is only one left, and it feels less like a choice and more like gravity. Now, what if your greatest edge was not what you know, but what you refuse to see? If everyone can see it, it is already priced in, including your effort. Most people burn mental fuel on decisions that offer no edge. Elites treat attention like ammunition. They only fire when they hold exclusive intelligence, when the battlefield is invisible to others. Picture a chess grandmaster walking past a dozen games in a park. He does not stop to analyze every match. He only pauses when he sees a position no one else recognizes as critical. Not because he is arrogant, but because his mind is calibrated for asymmetry. No edge, no engagement. This is cognitive asymmetry, the ruthless discipline of investing cognition only, where you possess hidden information, unique context, or deeper pattern recognition. Everywhere else, disengage, walk away, conserve. Take Ray Dalio during the 2008 crisis. While banks scrambled to interpret falling markets, Dalio had spent decades building proprietary models tracking debt cycles. Most economists ignored. His team did not react faster. They saw a different game entirely, because their data lived in a dimension others had not mapped. That is asymmetry, not speed, not luck. Exclusive perception. And your brain is wired to seek this, if you do not drown it in noise. Neuroscience reveals to systems at play. Attentional spotlighting. Your ability to zoom in on high-signal data while suppressing distractions. Bayesian updating. Your brain's constant calculation of, is this new information actually useful, or just more noise? But most professionals override both by consuming generic advice, chasing trends, and debating public knowledge. Result? Mental exhaustion with zero strategic return. A study from MIT found that top-tier investors spend less than 12% of their cognitive budget on publicly available data. The rest, reserved for private signals, behavioral anomalies, structural inefficiencies, second-order effects. They do not outwork the market, they outsee it. If everyone can see it, it is already priced in, including your effort. And once you audit your own attention through this lens, you will realize most of your hard decisions are not hard at all. They are just public dilemmas dressed as strategy. You stop wrestling with choices that offer no real leverage. You stop mistaking consensus for insight. Because true power is not knowing more. It is knowing what is worth knowing, and ignoring the rest with absolute calm. Now, what if the ultimate signal is not what you do, but what you disappear from? They did not outwork you. They disappeared while you were still auditioning. In a world obsessed with visibility, the ultimate act of power is withdrawal, not retreat. Strategic erasure. Elites do not hide because they are afraid. They vanish because presence in the wrong arena dilutes precision. Imagine a submarine diving below sonar range. It does not stop moving. It stops being trackable. While surface ships chase echoes, it navigates in silence, building position, timing, leverage, until emergence guarantees outcome. No debate, no noise, just irreversible impact. That is the discipline of disappearance. It is not about quitting. It is about refusing to perform in theaters where applause has no strategic value. Consider Satya Nadella's first 2 years as CEO of Microsoft. While tech media clamored for flashy product launches, he went quiet. No viral tweets, no keynote theatrics. Instead, he rebuilt culture in closed rooms, rewired internal incentives, and killed legacy projects no one was watching. By the time the world noticed, the transformation was already complete. He did not win attention. He made it irrelevant. And this is not mysticism, it's neurobiology. When you remove yourself from social validation loops, you suppress the brain's default mode network, system that generates self-referential thought, comparison, and ego-driven reactivity. In its place, the task-positive network dominates. Pure focus, pattern recognition, execution. Clarity is not found in more input. It is forged in deliberate absence. A Stanford study tracked high-impact founders over 5 years. The top quartile spent 68% less time in public forums, conferences, and networking than their peers. Not because they were antisocial, but because they treated visibility as a tax on cognition. Every minute spent performing was a minute stolen from positioning. They did not outwork you. They disappeared while you were still auditioning. And when you stop measuring relevance by mentions, you reclaim something rare, the freedom to operate in deep signal, far from the static of consensus. Because true decisions are not announced, they are executed long before the crowd realizes a choice was even made. Now, what remains when the noise is gone? Only what matters. The next billion-dollar decision will not look like a decision at all. It will look like silence, like absence, and like walking away long before the crowd arrives. Think back. You have spent years trying to choose better when the real edge was choosing less. You have chased visibility, urgency, options, only to drown in noise that offered no leverage. That exhaustion? That is not burnout. It is the cost of operating in arenas that were never yours to enter, but now you see it. Elite decisions are not loud. They are filtered. They are silent. They are inherited. They emerge not from chaos, but from the discipline of disappearance. And yet, even with perfect filters, even with temporal leverage and cognitive asymmetry, there remains one final barrier most never cross. Because knowing what to ignore is only half the battle. The other half? Knowing what is worth risking everything for. Most people misunderstand risk as danger. High-level operators understand it as precision under uncertainty. They do not avoid risk, tackle a bird it like a scalpel. And that is a mental model we will dissect next. If you recognize yourself in this architecture, if you have felt the weight of unnecessary choices and the hunger for quiet command, you are not alone. You are part of a silent cohort. Those building in depth, not volume. Those who know that true power does not announce itself. It simply becomes inevitable. Stay precise.